Hello, everyone.
Hey, all. We
We're
missed you.
back. We missed you so much. It's a summer reading program, of course. Is this episode 6, right?
Yeah,
6?
6. It's
It's
episode
6.
6.
I
Yeah.
had to look up at the title. Right, it's right there. 6.
Yes, we are almost to our 8th slice of pizza. Are we going to
Yes.
eat a whole pizza each? I mean, that's
I
wild.
I don't think that's happening.
I guess I could do like a Little Caesars one on like a rough day, but I don't think I could
Yeah.
ever do that on the average day. Not to
Maybe like
drag Little Caesars,
a personal pan, perhaps.
but that's 4 slices. I could cut it though. I
Oh.
could cut it more.
Yeah, we can make it very dramatic.
We have time to figure it out. We have time.
We'll
And we're also not
figure
going
it
to eat this pizza on there.
out.
So
100% no. No, we're not.
we could show it though.
It's pizza as a concept. That's what it is. Yeah, today, of course, I think you're very excited, right? We are finally reading Ashley Heron Blake's 2 middle grade books. I mean, she has another one, but these are the 2 we're reading. The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James and Hazel Bly and the Deep Blue Sea, both with lovely illustrative
They are.
water covers, really.
Mhm. You're like one of these parents that's, like, listing off their kids and they can't remember the last one. You're like, "But we're not doing the 3rd one." But there is a 3rd one?
Something about a letter, I feel like.
Some other kid? Ivy
Some other kid
Aberdeen's
and a
Letter to the
thing.
World?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are both water. We'll do, like, a description of both in a little bit, but they're both water-based, and ironically, the first one also features water, but it's not, like, cute coastal water because it's about a young person that survives a natural disaster that involves a little bit of weather and flooding and things like that. So it's a little bit more scary. But I love that Reed, I'm assuming this was Reed and not you suddenly
It was Reed, yeah.
got really confident. I love that Reed included these because
Yeah.
honestly, I have a tattoo I've been meaning to get that has a quote from a water-based show, nothing to do with this. But I've thought about like, oh, this would be a cool, like some of these designs would be a cool little background for the quote, actually.
Mhm.
I was thinking about that. I think it's beautiful.
You know you can't tease that and not give more descriptors, like what is the show and what is the quote?
When Kristen gets to 500, what do you want? 525 subscribers, I'll tell you what I'm going to permanently put on my body. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, you can tell me after, right?
Oh yeah, I can
Alright.
tell you for
Alright.
sure.
Alright,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Mhm. So everybody tell a friend,
Tell
get
a
an
friend,
extra
you wanna know.
subscriber.
You wanna know.
Hey,
And
James.
hello, James. Mary's, of course, traveling in her car. Thank you for listening, Mary. Appreciate that. Elon says that football shirt is awesome. Is it a goalie top or an away kit?
It was the main kit, actually, not a goalie kit, from 2019 and 2020. Yeah. My
Nice.
girls lost this morning, but you gotta stay with your team.
Yeah.
You gotta be there for the good times and the bad, and you know what? They performed really well, so it wasn't a total emotional loss for me, but thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, I know nothing about sports, of course,
I
but
know.
I do think that looks like a really cool thing you're wearing.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Grace.
Great.
A tattoo with a quote from Flushed Away.
But what if it was?
feel like
Everyone would lose respect.
about it, but what if
Listen, I don't
I
have
love
a
it.
shred of dignity, so that's totally fine.
I've thought about worse tattoos, so it's okay. It's okay.
I went through a short phase when I had cable for a very small window of time, where I watched this show that was called, I think it was it called Bad Ink? No, that's something else. But it was like a show about people who did tattoo removal or tattoo like conversion into other things, like people who got one thing.
Yeah.
And then they like changed the art to be something else. And it was really kind of cool. So I hope that's not me though one day. I hope I'm happy with my permanent decision.
You should watch Tattoo Redo on Netflix because it is the exact same concept.
Okay. Yeah, I'll add that.
Yeah, it's really fun. There's only one season, unfortunately, but it is really good. And the concept is there's 2 people. They could be spouses or friends or whatever, but one of them has a tattoo that they hate and they've wanted covered up for a long time and they've never done it. So that person, like their friend, takes them to this place and they don't know what's happening. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna cover up that tattoo." And ultimately,
they don't know.
They don't know. And ultimately, it's the friend or the spouse, whoever brought them in, they get to pick what the cover.
I don't know if I like that one. That one makes me a little anxious. That
Well,
probably tests some relationships.
it certainly does, but I gotta
Okay.
tell you, it is
Mm.
fun. And so they'll put like their arm in a thing so they can't even see what's being done as it's happening. It's a
I
lot of trust you put into somebody for sure. But
I
the
know.
artists involved are like really good. So I
Yeah.
mean, you always end up with something nice, but
Yeah. It's
it's
a
fun.
real art. It really is like a
Yeah.
an art for sure.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Hello, Richard. This is the fourth Comic Slayer video going on my watch later list across 4 channels. That's very funny and nice. Thank you.
She's a celebrity. She's here, she's there.
I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
This is for you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I do follow Premier League. I don't really follow. We don't get in the states easy access to some of the lower leagues in England and Wales in this case. But I have watched the Ryan Reynolds show, and I did really enjoy it because I do think what it's going to do, amongst a couple of other things that have come out lately, like Ted Lasso, is get a lot more Americans interested in football or in soccer. And so I'm really down for that in that sense. Like I think it's going to grow the game here, ironically. So yeah, sure. Unless you don't, in which case, let me know, and then I could be easily persuaded otherwise.
If James had the power, he would make you get a tattoo of Indiana.
James, we would never
Never.
go on tattoo redo together. I thought I trusted you, James. You've always proved yourself reliable, but it's over now. It's
It's
over.
over.
It is
A lot
over.
happening. Well, of course, today we have a not sponsor. Should we go into that?
We do, yes. And if it is your first time here, because you love Ashley Herring Blake, you've listened to Kristen preach about Delilah Green. Her
Yes.
evangelism spread to the far corners of the earth, and you're watching this now or later
Yes.
because you searched Ashley Herring Blake. Just to give you an idea of the flow so that you feel safe, spoilers wise, this is a nostalgia show. It's a throwback show to the summer reading program. So we're going to do a fun little look back in our not sponsored by segment. Then we're going to go into the gold star segment. This is where we'll be spoiler free about both of the books. Who knows which order we'll go in. Also, I'm realizing I did not put my stars on my chart yet, but we will
Hey.
give a rating out of 5 stars. And then we'll go into the book report. Here's where we'll get into spoilers. And there are definitely spoilers for both of these books. But I think we say this a lot. I don't know how much we could really spoil that would totally like diminish your enjoyment of the book. They are not so much about plot as they are about character growth, both of them. So definitely don't feel too nervous about that spoilery section if you're still interested in reading them but haven't gotten a chance to yet. And then we're going to end in beach reads. And I've actually read some things this weekend. I read
Hey.
things. So we're going to talk about what you've just read, what you're currently reading. Totally welcome anyone in the chat or in the comments later to share what they've been reading. And we'll talk about what we're going to do for our next summer reading program episode in 2 weeks. So with that said, everyone knows the order. Let's go into not sponsored by. What are we not sponsored by this week?
Well, this week.
Wow.
We're not sponsored by Nostalgic Candy, of course.
Who chose? Did you choose this picture or did Reed? I have to know.
I made this whole slide.
I love it. Oh
I
my
did it
God.
earlier. He's not here, unfortunately. So that's what I chose.
I love their shirts. We should
Yeah,
have
right?
gotten those. We still have time, actually.
It seemed like the vibe, right? It's the
It's the
summer reading
vibe.
program.
Yeah.
You
They're
know.
basically in the director's cut of both of these books.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready? Here we go. Tiny sized chiclets gum. Okay, so I put together a list of candy that I loved as a kid. Some of these may still be around, some of them may not be. I may address some of those things. I don't know if chiclets is. Actually didn't look that one up. But I remember specifically going to Toys R Us as a kid, and they would be right by the register, little chiclets. And they were always the tiny size, flavor coated gum. It was hard not to just want to dump the whole bag in your mouth, but I loved chiclets as a kid. Did you
They were
experience chiclets?
tiny gum. We'll see. So Kristen and I did our slides separately, so I've never seen what she had, and I'm eager to see how much overlap we have between them.
Yeah.
But what I noticed in my throwback, as you'll see, is the 90s had an obsession with tiny pieces of gum, like not a full piece of gum. Another thing I remember about chiclets that, and I'm curious to see if you've got its twin on here. the 90s was also obsessed with gum that lost flavor after like the second chew. You know, the second chew, it's
100%.
gone.
Yeah, it's gonna be yeah. Then you just wanna
Um,
spit it out because it tastes gross or it gets
exactly.
hard. Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, of course I remember chiclets, and I think, at my Toys R Us, 'cause it's funny you said that, we had these, like, you know, they still have them around, but, like, candy, machines where you put a quarter in or you get a small
Mhm,
ring, like, little plastic prizes, and actually, I think
mhm.
we had one that was chiclets that just spilled out some chiclets in your
Oh.
hand. Yeah, I'm
I do
pretty sure it was those.
I miss those little machines with the candies in the balls. Yeah.
They have them, the problem is the candy that's in there is just left over from the '90s.
Mm.
So you will break your teeth if you go to one in 2023.
That is a big bummer.
Yes.
Real quick for Elon, next week sponsored by Ice Gems, the treat every child loves, but it's probably the worst treat ever. Made a soggy biscuit with rock hard icing on top. I
What?
I don't
Uh,
know.
I'm gonna look it up
I'm not
while we're
familiar, Elon. Stop giving me nightmares. You two, those twins are worse than the ones in The Shining. I loved them, Elon, as a
Oh,
child.
they were solving
They
mysteries, and I was
were.
here for it.
Most of the E numbers in those are now illegal.
What?
What?
I don't know, but I did look up Ice Gems, and these look good, Elon. They weren't good. They seem like they would go stale quickly, but they look, you know what they look like, actually. Kristen's like
I'm looking them
describing
up.
something no one can see.
I'm,
But do you know those
I
little
can bring them
tiny
up.
circle brownies that
Oh.
people buy at the grocery, and sometimes they have icing on them? Do you know what I'm talking about? They're
Mhm.
like little, it looks like that, but they're like biscuit or cookie kind of shortbread material on the bottom. Or it might be a
Interesting.
sugar cookie, but I'm downing it because it seems like Europe. So they are more shortbread than sugar. Interesting.
Weird.
I learned so much about the cuisine of the world on this show. Who knew when we started it
That's the end of the world.
we would learn?
I'm trying to bring up Ice Gems, but it's not working out in my favor.
Ugh.
They do look good.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Next one. Hubba
Tiny gum
Bubba
pieces.
Bubble Jug Gum. And here's the thing about Hubba Bubba, right? Well, this specifically the bubble jug, right? I mean, you dump the thing in your mouth, right? Half of it's powder.
Mm.
I guess there are tiny pieces in there, but a lot of it's powder.
A lot of it is powder. Yeah. I was also wondering where you were going with that sentence. You were like, here's the thing. You dump it in your mouth and it's powder. I was like, yes.
I'm sorry. As I said that, I had a window popping up because I tried to share that thing and it was not working. So I was very distracted.
No, I love
Yeah.
it. It was good for dramatic effect. Yeah,
Thank
there's
you.
tiny pieces, but you're totally right. I remember it being mostly like a powder that you basically had to roll around in your mouth to get wet enough to like chew, which is
Mm,
really disgusting to say out loud. Yeah.
it really is. It really
Uh,
is.
yeah, I remember
Did,
them.
did
This
you
was one of
enjoy
my
it?
personal faves. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I also enjoyed the bubble jug. Just there was also a trend of like things shaped as other things or
Yo,
gum
yeah.
shaped as other things, you know.
Yes, that's very true.
All
Yep.
right. Fruit stripe gum. Come on.
Money.
Come on. It was just perfect. I would also get these at Toys R Us and by the cash register, right? And of course, the wrapper the gum came in were these horrible temporary tattoos.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
And
that's
that
totally
was
right. I
like one of the
forgot.
best parts. Yeah. So like
Wow.
it was you ate it and then you could give yourself a temporary tattoo.
And do you think, Kristen, that the tattoo artists on Tattoo Redo, that's where it all started for them?
You know what? What if it is?
Instant regret when they like put it on there, like, listen, somebody's got to fix this problem.
Yeah. And I mean, this was another gum that lasted like 1 second
Yep.
and then it was no flavor anymore.
Yeah, that's the other one that I was mentioning was the twin that I was hoping was on your chiclets and fruit stripes. Or I always
Hiding
called
over
it
here.
zebra gum. Is that different?
Yeah. No, I called it zebra gum too.
Okay.
I
Okay.
actually didn't know the name. I think I typed in zebra gum and then it
Yeah,
came
I
up.
think I did too. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Hayden's too young to know the bubble jug. That's
Okay,
too bad,
Hayden.
Hayden.
All right, Hayden. The sparkles are, it's a little too far, Hayden. A
It's
little
too far.
making us feel old.
Yeah. So Chewy runs, which are not around
Yeah.
anymore, apparently. These are gone forever, and I'm sad. So Chewy runs, especially like, listen, I've always been weird about candy. Like, I didn't like all the flavors. So I would
Sure.
get these. I get these bags. The bananas were my favorite. Chewy
They were my
banana.
least favorite.
Oh, see, we should have been friends because we could
I
have,
know.
they were my favorite. My second favorite would be the grapes.
Yeah, I do like the grape one. I think I liked all the rest.
And yeah, my third would be the strawberries. Well, was there an
Oh.
apple?
Green apple, yeah.
Okay. No, I like the
Mhm.
heart strawberries. I didn't like the rest.
Okay. You've been astute eye because I kind of forgot other than the bananas, they actually did have shape to them. Now I can
Mm,
see a bit more.
yeah.
We should have been friends because we could talk to the audience briefly about how we discovered our mutual love for sweethearts,
Yeah.
Valentine's Day
Yeah.
sweethearts. So not too long ago, I saved some for Kristen of the flavors I didn't like and brought them
It's
to her.
amazing. It's
Not
amazing.
not by themselves. We had other plans. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
saved them all and I was like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
could have been
And
a
I gave
beautiful
you a whole
friendship."
bag. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that
like,
was delightful. Yeah.
yeah, love that. All right. Ring pops, of course, which are still around,
Yeah.
apparently. Um, but also like how gross was it? Can we just talk about that? Like these things, like even as children, I feel like I remember they didn't really fit my finger right, It didn't
Mhm.
feel nice to walk
No.
around with a big old ring pop, right? And did anyone ever finish it? I don't remember ever finishing a ring pop. It's too much.
Y Yeah, it's a good point. I'm not remembering. I think what I would do is, like, have enough of it so it was half, then take it off, and then just bite, which was
Mm,
probably not the best plan, but this is
makes
another
sense.
trend. I don't know if you have any more, and I forgot to include on mine, I'm pretty sure. We also had a fascination with candy jewelry in the '90s. Like,
Ooh, yeah.
jewelry was edible. I don't know if you have any
Mhm.
more, so I'm gonna wait and not spoil anything, but I
Right.
feel like that was very much a thing, for sure.
So true. So true. Hubba bubba
Classic.
bubble tape. Say that 10 times fast. I remember getting these so often. Like
Yeah.
I remember loving the bubble tape. And look at how gross it looks. It does look really nasty, but I can even feel it. Like I can remember the feeling and how soft it was. And it was a wonderful gum, except lasted 2 seconds. Like so really it was a novelty gum, wasn't it? Like
You know what we should do? Actually, I'm just thinking, just throwing it out there. If we could track down, they do have, you can buy the zebra gum, aka
okay.
fruit stripes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you can buy these others, but if we could find them, we could do a test and see how long, which one
Mm.
lasts longer flavor. Because when in my memory, these lasted a bit longer. Um,
Yeah, and that's probably true. Um, I don't know. It still didn't last long enough. Nothing did.
no, no,
But
and so
but you're right.
wasteful. All this plastic.
Yeah, but I would love to have a bubble tape now. I don't know. I didn't look this one up. I don't know if it's still around.
Hmm.
But bubble tape.
We'll do some research. We'll do some
Yeah.
research.
Of course Airheads are still around. But I loved Airheads as a kid. Loved Airheads. Grape was my favorite.
Hmm. You really love grape.
Grape, yeah, grape was
Yeah.
consistent. Yeah, grape and strawberry. I didn't want to. Yeah, you know what? What's cool about Airheads though is most of the flavors were still pretty decent. Like on average, I wouldn't normally want a blue raspberry or a watermelon, but they're all pretty good.
Hmm.
Something about
Yeah.
Airheads.
I agree, and you mentioned those 2 in the left picture, and the 2 that I would pick are watermelon and blue raspberry.
See, we should have been friends. We get a bag of Airheads, and I'm like, I don't want these here.
I don't remember Airhead Bites, though. I'm looking at that, and that's
I
not
don't
ringing a
either,
bell.
actually. I was gonna ask because that sounds kind of nice, but
Sure.
I don't remember
Yeah.
either. All
Yep.
right, of course, candy necklace.
You
Candy
came
necklace.
through.
When I think about how often I feel like me and my friends had candy necklaces, running around, getting dirty, and still just like slobbering all over your candy necklace. It's really gross. It's like, why were we doing this?
I know what you meant, but then when you were, like, running around, slobbering, it's like, what were you doing?
Just
How old
like
are you in this
chewing on your
story?
necklace.
No,
And
you're
you
totally
get
right.
like,
What's grosser, the necklace or there were ones for your that were like bracelets?
yeah, I don't know because I feel like you're sweating more here, but you're
Yeah,
touching more things here.
I
So
know. And
That's
your
all
shirt
gross.
would get stained here, but probably not
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Chat, weigh in. What's
Yeah,
worse?
wait. The Wonder Ball, which was
Mm.
banned in the States. I
Yeah, it's
don't remember.
true.
Yeah, I don't remember getting these that often, but although this is Despicable Me, so maybe was it banned
Probably
after
because
that,
they
or
were
did they fix it?
contraband.
Hmm.
When we were kids, I couldn't remember if it was Wonder Ball. I'm remembering this too when I did my search. There were these other things called like Kinder something. It's from the
Mm.
company that does Nutella that were banned in the
Mhm.
States that kids in Europe loved. And it was
Yeah.
funny because my old roommate grew up in England for a significant portion of her life anyways. She was born here, but then she lived there for most of her life. So she often talked about it. And then they became legal again here because they fixed whatever choking hazard was prominent. And she like went nuts. We went to the store that night and she was like trying to find them in Walmart. I was like, and I had them Kinder eggs. Thank you, Elon.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
had
Kinder.
them and it was kind of underwhelming because like it feels like, oh, it's illegal. Like,
Right.
and it was just like kind of overrated, but
I think what it
yeah.
was is they can no longer put candy inside of a candy that could cause choking.
Choking. Yeah, it's
So
definitely
now,
choking.
yeah, and I think now when you open, if they're still around, I think they're still around. Um, I think the candy's in plastic.
Is that worse though? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like I read something about it, but I don't know. I'll look it up later.
Listen, we're not lawyers. We don't know.
No, of course, nerds.
Ah,
Which
classic.
what a joy! What a perfect joy for my flavor favorites because grape and strawberry are in a box together.
That's right.
My favorites. So like, which is the best. Loved them.
I loved those mixed boxes for sure. And you could always tell like when one was more popular than the other because you'd get to the end and like one would tap out and
Oh
then there
yeah,
was only like there was like three-fourths of
yeah,
the other one
yeah.
left.
Because you could like dump it in your mouth from both sides. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's good stuff. James loved Wonder Balls. Yeah. I just remember buying candy cigarette sticks with my temporary tattoo on my arm. My cuffs rolled up with a Smash Mouth era sunglasses on, thinking I was a badass. That's great. That's great.
Also, yeah, that was wild. What
Yeah.
were they doing with kids?
I mean, I loved candy cigarettes. See, I didn't even think about that, but
I forgot. Yeah, that was
yeah,
so wild. The 90s were so out of pocket, as the youth say. That was
so much.
crazy.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I forgot pixie sticks, but I loved pixie sticks. I don't know how I forgot. I don't
You'll
know how
have
I
to
forgot
see
that.
about
Yeah.
warheads.
Yeah.
My fun fact: my dad loves Halloween. That's not the fun part. The fun part is we. He's a big like Sam's Club guy, and so growing up, he would buy the Halloween candy from Sam's Club. Yes, we're not even. We were not. I did not grow up wealthy, but we were a full size candy house.
Oh, that's nice.
And for years, he did giant pixie sticks. He would let these like 3-year-olds roll back. Do you know what I'm talking about? They're
Yes,
like
the plastic
over,
kind that you had to like. I
they're like
loved
18
those.
inches long, pure sugar,
I
pure sugar.
loved it. Pure sugar.
But
Yeah.
here's what's funny. We knew he did that for years. And then we knew the people who lived in the house after us. And they would always say kids would walk away disappointed at
Oh,
Halloween. And finally, they asked one of the parents because they would hear them. They were audibly
yeah.
upset because this is the full size house. And so then that family the next year, once one of the parents told them, was like, well, we
Mm,
got to level it up. And they became full size candy people.
that's so
So
funny.
yeah, wherever my dad goes, the neighborhood like learns that route because he loves Halloween.
That is awesome. All right. Warheads, you mentioned them. You mentioned them, Craze. Here they are, warheads. And apparently toxic waste was like warheads. I never had them, but I did see
I've
those
never heard
pop
of it.
up in my search. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think they were similar. Here's the thing about me and warheads. I didn't love warheads, but kids loved warheads. So
Correct.
we would still I would still have them and then just suck on it until it tasted good. Cause like, the
Mm,
sour would wear off
yeah.
and then it tasted nice. So
They're the grandfather of Sour Patch Kids. They're the grandfather who taught them how to be ornery candies. That's the legacy of Warheads.
Yeah.
Yeah, Warheads. This is I accidentally when we were talking about Gushers several weeks ago, which again fell between the line of candy and snack, which we highlighted, but I
Mhm.
accidentally misspoke because I was remembering that one of the challenges with Gushers was how many you could put in your mouth, but it was actually Warheads. Kids at my like middle school
Mhm.
would put like their mouth full of Warheads and then like time how long they could keep it in there without spitting them out.
Wow.
Did they do that at yours or was that
I
just like
don't I
a
don't
hardcore
remember
New
that.
England thing? Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but
With our
oh,
candy cigarettes and our
yeah.
fake tattoos.
Are
Metal.
warheads still around? Do we know?
I think so. Yeah, I think I've seen them
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
That's
think they're
fun.
as popular.
Maybe we should have some warheads on our last show.
Yeah,
Just
I
do a
mean,
warhead challenge.
I'm down. We're gonna have to make dentist appointments for sure after
Yeah,
the
yeah,
show
we are.
at this rate.
Especially after some now and laters, okay? Do you
Oh my
remember now and
gosh.
laters?
Yeah, they broke your teeth.
Oh my gosh, they were so hard. They were so hard. But there was something about them. I loved the grape ones. I would just like suck on it.
Did you love the grape ones? Do you love grape? I'm sensing a theme here.
My grape was always my favorite. Yes, yes.
Mm. Wait, okay, so there's no strawberries. So let me try to do you have a
Okay.
second favorite one? I can try to
I
guess.
do. I do.
That's really tough. Okay, so you forgot apple was even a thing with the runts
But I
earlier.
didn't
So
like the run apple.
right, but
Mm,
I'm not I don't think it's apple. I
okay.
think if I had to guess it's either cherry or tropical punch, and I'm gonna go tropical punch.
Cherry.
Ah,
Out of these,
on the
I would have
way.
only ate the grape and cherry.
Wow.
I wouldn't have wanted anything
Wow.
else. I know. Dramatic. But yeah, they were hard. Also, but I can still taste them, and I kind of want some right now.
I actually do
Are they
think these are
around?
still around.
Okay.
Yeah, you can get some.
You know what's not around? Shock
Mm.
tarts. They're gone. They're gone. And
Forever.
I loved shock tarts. This was one of my all-time favorites. I left my favorites for the end of the slides. This was one of my all-time favorites.
I have
But
no memory of this candy.
you have no memory. So they were kind of sour. Or they were sour, and then you would suck
Mhm.
on them until like they weren't. But and they look just like that. I would still only eat the grape and the red. That's a
What were you
sometimes
doing, like, with
occasionally
the
the
other
blue.
ones? Were you just tossing them? Did, like, your dad or mom like them? Were you,
If
like, bargaining with other children for them? Like, what was
I
going on?
I think if I got sugar desperate, I'd eat the other ones, but I
Okay.
wouldn't enjoy it. Like the blue was kind of a middle line. It's like, that could be nice, you know? But oh, shock tart, yeah, they were sour. They were sour, like sweet tart kind of things. They were also chewy, so I
Okay.
don't know, but they're
Yeah, I
gone.
got the vibe, I think.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
like a Mentos, like, hard on the outside and chewy on the
mm,
inside.
yeah,
Also,
yeah,
Wonka was, like, really big. I'm remembering this as we're
yeah.
going through. I feel like you used to see that a lot. I'm sure there's still, like, a company, um, but I just don't see that as much anymore.
I don't either. All right,
What?
one of my all-time favorites. I miss it so much. You have no idea. I think about it sometimes.
Mhm.
I think about it. I only have one after this that ranked above it, essentially, right? Because the last three are my favorite shock tarts, white crunch bars, and the last one. I miss white crunch bars so much. I'm so sad. It was before the white chocolate craze that has now taken over. That you can find white Kit Kats everywhere. You can find white Reese's. It's not a big deal. Didn't used to be the case. White crunch bars. Did you ever have these? Do you remember them existing?
Kristen. Here's where our friendship hits a snag. No, I'm just kidding. White chocolate, the idea of it makes me sick to my stomach. We couldn't be further apart on the
Ugh,
chocolate. I'm not a big chocolate girly, full stop. But if I had to
mhm.
rank them, it's dark milk, and then white is like buried 6 feet
In the trash.
under.
Okay.
Yeah, it like literally makes me nauseous. The one exception, and I don't know why it's different. And honestly, I haven't had it in a while, so it may be like maybe this is your number one. Oh my gosh, what if it is? So dramatic, unnecessarily. I
It's my number one's not chocolate for the record. So,
Oh, okay. The exception to this is cookies and cream bars. For some reason, I could
oh,
handle those pretty well. I think the white
those are
chocolate
great.
wasn't as overwhelming.
Sure.
But I actually have no memory of this candy, probably because I just was like
You didn't care.
staying away from it.
Yeah. So I don't know that I've met another person who remembers this candy. It's like I had a fever dream about this candy. I would only get it I could only find it, I think, at Ben Franklin's craft store that my grandma used to take me to,
It's so
so she could
specific.
get her yarn, yes. And it's probably also was a regional thing or something, I don't know. But, I loved it so much. I loved it so much. It was my favorite,
Ugh.
my all-time favorite chocolate bar. And of course with Crunch bars, I mean, it had so this like the white one on the right, apparently
Mhm.
they still make these in other countries.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, and that's how they look in other countries now. That's not how it looked back in the day. It looked like a regular Crunch bar that said Crunch, the letters were like cut out. I
Mhm.
would eat around the letters
Ugh, love it.
and then eat the letters. Anyway, I miss it. I'm sad.
I
I
love
will
that I feel like you shared a very deep part of your soul when you just shared that, and I appreciate you sharing with me.
thank you
I
so much.
appreciate it, yeah, yeah. I'm
I
sad for you, I don't like white chocolate, but this does make me
Yeah.
really sad hearing your passion and knowing it's out of reach and knowing you have to fly to Europe. That's
I
wild.
I truly like Google it sometimes. I'm like, can I get these
Yeah,
somewhere
shipped.
somehow? Yeah, and I'll find them sometimes, but it's way too much.
What
So
was
I
the
just do
name
that.
of the Canadian candy that we could not get here? Do you remember from Big Brother Canada? And we were like, "Let's get some."
Oh,
Or I was like, "Let me get some and surprise Kristen." And then you couldn't get
yeah.
it. And I'm like, "Y'all are right up there. Can't you share?"
I can't
I
remember, but
can't
yeah,
remember.
it looks really good. Can't you
Twistos
share?
Twist. It was a
Oh, it's just
Twistos. It
it
wasn't
wasn't
a
candy.
candy. It was
Yeah.
like a chip. Okay.
Yeah,
Glad
yeah, it
everyone
was.
joined us for that moment. Thank you so much. All right, Kristen's
Twistos.
number 1.
All
Drum
right.
roll, please.
Drum roll, please. I am so curious if people remember this because it was my all-time favorite. I loved it so much. And I know it's discontinued. In fact, it's so discontinued that when I looked it up, I found posts about it and people were like, I miss this candy so much. And one of them was like, they're literally so rare that like if you find one pop up on eBay, like it sells for a lot of money. And I'm like, okay, I don't miss it that much. Like, because I'm not gonna
Whoa.
eat it from back then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, it depends on what it is. I guess if it's a warhead, those things are meant to survive like nuclear holocausts. But
Right. Okay,
all
here we
right,
go.
here we go.
Bug City candy tarts. No idea.
No memory.
These were the best. And if you look at them, you see that there are grape ones, pink ones, whatever color flavor that is, and then some green. And the green, not the worst. The other two were obviously my favorite,
Mhm.
but I would still eat the whole jar. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. And once you ate the whole jar, you see the top with the holes? You would
Yes.
peel this layer, this like thing in the top, and then you could go around and catch fireflies and like close the jar and they could breathe and repurpose the jar.
Wow.
It
I
was the
have no
best.
memory. That's really inventive. We were just giving grief to Hubba Bubba about being wasteful, but this is
Yeah,
repurposing.
right?
They
And I
look
mean,
like Flintstones vitamins, but I respect your life
yes.
choices for sure.
No, they definitely do, and they were like
Mhm.
that size and shapes like that.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't put on here because Reed told me that it was too
Uh-oh.
much and people were gonna think I'm crazy because it's not a
Oh dear.
candy, but it tasted as good as candy to me, and I remember it to this day. And that is children's chewable grape Tylenol.
Well, I mean, I just named the way I wanted to eat more Flintstones vitamins than I was supposed to. It was
Same.
dangerous.
Just
Dangerous.
same. I also wanted to eat those up. Love those too. But the children's chewable grape Tylenol, I was fine if I needed it because I was like, it's
Mhm.
delicious. And that's all. That's all. He was like, people are gonna think you're crazy. Can't do
I
that.
don't have a memory, but because I shared the Flintstones thing, like I feel like that's relatable content,
Mm,
honestly. Thank you for your secret is or your truth is safe with us.
thank you. Thank you.
Read, come on.
Yeah.
Have higher standards for the audience
Honestly.
here. Yeah.
All right.
Loved it.
Switching to yours. Here we go.
What I'm a one slide wonder today.
I love
And
it.
you
I love it.
there were it was like 50%. You covered
Yeah.
50%. So yeah, I put fruit stripes and chiglets because
Mhm.
they are one and the same to me as we discussed. I talked about the small gum with the bubble jug. Warheads. So yeah, the things that didn't get covered, push pops. I did think
Oh,
about
yeah.
the rings for sure.
Mhm.
But push pops I feel like I loved because I have very distinct memories of, you see that, you know how it's got like the pen cap. I
Mhm.
would like put that cap like in my pocket so
Yep.
that the push pop would be out, like I like I
I
was
would do that
showing
too.
off.
Yep.
I don't know why I thought that was cool, but I did that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
we were
love
really
that.
into like pushing treats up as a kid because remember that
Like
ice
push-ups.
cream? Yeah,
Push-ups, yep. I
man, they were
loved
really big back
push-ups.
then.
Yep.
I also included church lady candies, trademark, on the upper line.
I loved those, and I think my grandma had them, so it makes sense. I loved the strawberry things, yeah.
So
Loved
you
those.
can still get these sometimes at the Dollar Tree,
Yeah,
but
I've seen them, yeah.
if you've never had them because you didn't have a church lady in your life, because that's where I don't know what store they were in. I never saw these in the store growing up. It was specifically in church lady purses or when you went to an older person's house in
Yeah,
their candy dish. And it was
100%.
fancy because it's like that shiny lining and then it had paper lining. It was double lined, which is
Yeah.
very excessive.
Mhm.
But it's a hard candy on the outside, and then yeah, when you chew in, it's like that was the theme, I guess, of the
Yeah.
90s. You chew in, it's like a softer material.
Mhm. Love
I'm
those.
glad you also love those. I feel like church ladies had those and church grandpas had like butterscotches.
Mm.
That's how it was in my church, I think for sure.
And there was also those, like, pink winter mint
Oh, don't get me started
ones.
on dinner mints.
You know what I'm talking about? Like,
I love dinner mints to this day.
I loved those. I want those. I need to go to the Dollar Tree. I assume they're still
Uh,
there.
oh yeah, you can still get dinner mints for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I want those.
I also included cream savers. They really had a moment. They had different
Strawberry.
flavors.
Yeah, I
I
love
don't
those
know if
too.
those are still around. I'm not sure.
I think I saw them pop up and they were discontinued.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
They went out of style. I included Pop Rocks. I am not sure if those came about in the late 80s or not, but I feel like 90s is where they took off.
Mhm. I love those
And that's
too.
another one where kids would like do as much as possible and like,
Dump a whole bag in
yeah.
their mouth. Yeah.
Yep. And then I included when I think of challenges of the 90s, it's this. It's a Mentos, which was not made for children, and a Diet Coke, really not also made for
Yeah.
children. But kids were obsessed with getting these two things. And when you would drop the Mentos in there, the Diet Coke would like geyser up, and people would like do that in their driveway all summer
Yep.
long. Do you remember that
I
challenge?
I remember doing it in my backyard.
Did you? Oh,
I think with my dad. Yeah.
love it. Larry was so cool.
Yeah.
I think I did ask my dad to buy Mentos to do this, but we were Altoids family for
Mm.
breath mints, so he didn't do it. But they loved Diet Coke, so I was deprived of childhood, is what I'm trying to share here.
We were also an Altoids family.
Yeah,
Cinnamon Altoids.
cinnamon's my favorite to this day. In my
Mm.
search, I came across what I totally forgot about, which was sour Altoids.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I remember those.
they were
Yeah.
in like a different
They,
kind of
like,
can that was
stuck to
fancier.
the can too. I
Yeah, it
remember.
was different. It wasn't. They weren't the best, but that was a thing. But so many of the same memories. And that honestly, I don't eat candy a lot today. But when I
Mhm.
thought about how much I ate in the 90s, like it
I
was a golden era.
Yeah, I felt the same too. I was like, "Wow, I could keep going, clearly. I forgot some." Like,
That's how I got that cavity. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
makes
absolutely.
sense. Yeah, awesome. Well, those are great lists, I think. Let's see. We had push pops, but they were also whistle. I remember the whistle ones.
No, I
You
don't
remember
know
those?
this.
Yeah, I
You
remember.
guys found such interactive toys or interactive candies. I had none of that.
Yeah. Chubby Bunny before Chubby Bunny?
The warheads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Challenge.
We're gonna be forced to take cod liver oil tablets by your grandparents. Elon.
Uh Not me, but that does sound familiar.
Hmm.
I also know my roommate that I was talking about that spent a good bit of time in England. Her babysitters and like caretakers or nannies or whatever. She wasn't like wealthy, but I think nanny is more the term they use besides babysitter. They would give her hot toddies when she was sick, which in the
Oh,
US, I mean, families do that with with children, but it's like alcohol. And
mhm.
so that was like her thing growing up. So
Wow.
yeah, it's interesting the remedies that are just totally fine when someone's not feeling well or trying to maintain health.
Yeah, for sure. Fun
Ugh,
dips, yeah,
classic.
a classic. So good.
I kind of liked the stick more than the sugar,
Jessica,
if I'm honest.
Jessica, I like the stick more than the sugar.
Oh, finally we align.
Hold on. I
I thought
all
you were
like
gonna say I liked the sugar, but I hated the steak, and I was like,
no.
"What's going on?"
From the moment I was a kid, I feel like I was saying, if only I could get a package of the sticks. I know that's pure sugar too, but that's all I wanted. I didn't want the powder. I would do it sometimes, but like I just
Mhm.
wanted the stick.
Just give me the steak straight. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. My mom actually, for probably like last Valentine's Day or something, she loves still getting me little Valentine's candy because she's
Hmm.
like, that's nice. And there were these like Mandalorian Fun Dubs. So it's a little
Oh, you
pack.
sent a picture of that, I think, when you got
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had like the powder and the stick. And there was like green Fun Dip, which I don't like. That was one of them. There were like two flavors.
Hmm.
So I would just eat the sticks out of it. It was actually lovely. It was like living my best children life where I'm like, I could just eat the stick now. I don't have to eat all the sugar.
I could just make choices for myself. I'm all grown
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a great choice still, but it's a good time. I still eat so much candy. I lost all my teeth.
Lost,
What
lost
do you like
all.
to eat now, Elon? I need to know. I don't know.
Swedish fish became my thing. I know we're done talking
Mm.
about candy, but I just want to
Those are
I want to
good.
share. But my dentist did tell me like stop eating chewy candies. When you get to a certain age, just stop doing it. They just cause too many problems, so I don't have them anymore. You
Gotcha.
got to choose your vices, and that's not going to be mine.
It's
But
understandable.
yeah, thanks for going down memory lane with
Yeah.
us, and we have arrived at the gold star segment,
Yeah.
and a big moment for me. I
Yeah.
got nervous, Kristen.
Did you? What'd you get
Yeah,
nervous about?
I was like, what if she doesn't like these at all? Like, there's one of them I felt so confident. Kristen's going to at least like this, if not love it. And
Okay.
and then when I was rereading the other one, I was like, what if she doesn't like this? What if it just isn't clicking for her? And it made me a little scared or sad, and not in a way that I felt when we with Superman, because I knew those probably were not going to be like your favorite.
Mhm.
But this would feel so personal in a way that didn't. And I got a little scared. I'm tough now, you know.
Okay.
Getting knocked
Okay.
out of the World Cup this morning kind of helped.
Sad.
But
Yeah.
I got a bit nervous. But all this to say, which one would you like to start with? And I'll read the summary, and then we can get into our non-spoilery thoughts. Do you have a preference for the order?
Um, is there what was the one you were super scared about?
No.
No?
I'm not going to tell you.
Well, then I want to start with Sunny St. James. And you know the reason is I finished this one first and
Yes.
I came in here and already put the stars on it. And then I forgot to put the Hazel stars on.
Well, I just forgot
So,
about stars entirely, so.
right. So like I feel like if I show my chart, it's gonna spoil this if I don't start here. So that's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
fair. Totally fair.
Yep.
Yeah, so Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James, the second middle grade book by Ashley Herring Blake, who started in YA and middle grade and is now mostly writing adult adult romance, in which Kristen just yesterday realized she's got a Christmas romance coming up in 2024. I'm so
Yeah.
happy for you, by the way, that you
Even
missed
though
that news and then found it out later.
I thought you meant like you told me and I was like, wow, am I dumb? Like what's
No,
happening?
I don't. I didn't. I
Yeah.
don't think I told you. If I did, what I did was I shared the Instagram post where she announced it, and then it just
Okay.
got lost in the other memes that I send you as
Gotcha.
a
Okay.
form of love. Yeah.
Yep.
um,
I was very stoked. So it's like, oh no, why did I not know? I'm very excited.
but now, yeah, it's early Christmas for you. But yeah, the Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James. I'll kind of read the back. Sunny's plan seems to be racing forward, but when she meets Quinn, a girl with serious best friend potential, Sunny's questions whether she really wants to kiss a boy at all. I didn't read the top of it. Let me chart again. When Sunny St. James receives a new heart transplant, she decides to set off on a new life plan. Step one, do awesome, amazing things she could never do before. Step two, find a new best friend. Now it's all making more sense to people who didn't read this book. And step three, find a boy and kiss him. So her plan seems to be going forward when she meets Quinn. Serious potential as a best friend. But Sunny questions whether she really wants to kiss a boy at all. And as if that's not enough, the reemergence of her mother after years of absence brings buried feelings to the surface. With so much weighing Sunny's new heart down, how will she ever become the new Sunny St. James? Sweet and tender novel from Ashley Herring Blake dares readers to find the might in their own hearts. That's a little bit about the book. Kristen, do you want to start with your non-spoilery thoughts?
Or are you scared for me to start?
I live on the edge.
You look-
Go ahead. No, I'm all right.
Well, I I've only read the Bright Falls series, right? I don't think I've. Oh no. I also read
How to Make a Wish.
That's right. That was the first
Ashley
one I read.
Herring Blake's YA, one of her YAs.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I loved. So I loved that.
Mhm.
Loved Delilah Green. Loved Astrid Parker. And of course, I loved Sunny St. James.
God, oh my gosh. Whew. All right, we can proceed.
Okay, was this the one? Was this
No.
the one? Oh,
This is the one I felt pretty good that you
okay.
would
I got
you would really love. But tell me a little bit about what you loved about it, what really worked for you, and if there were things that didn't super work for you.
Yeah, I just think she is such a pro at characters. And if you know anything about me, which you do, but if anyone's watching perhaps doesn't realize yet, plot is not my main thing. I want to be able to like care about the characters, grow with the characters, watch the characters like, you know, succeed and live their best life. And I loved just like everything about I'm like trying to get my words together. You know, we're following Sunny and she's going through something really like traumatic and like a lot for like someone her age especially, but for anyone, but it's a huge thing. And you know, she struggles with like being alive and talks about that. And you know, she's what, 12? So it's something that like I haven't read a lot of middle grade and certainly haven't in a while, but I think this is one of those examples that books are not obviously there are age ranges for books because of reading levels, right? But this is such a great book for all ages. You know,
Yeah.
I think anyone who, I mean, you could be like, I don't even care what age you are. I think you can get something out of this. And I think that's what, I don't know that it surprised me because I know that I love her and her characters, but I think it would surprise a lot of people how deep this book is.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I'm resisting a deep as the ocean pun.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not resisting it, I guess. But you're totally right. It opens up, if you haven't read it, the very first page is her making jokes about being dead for a second when they switch hearts because it's right before her heart transplant. And I think that opening scene where you have this kid dealing with something that's truly unimaginable, even for an adult, like that is a really scary prospect to know such a vital organ failed you, to be facing such a very serious surgery, to be taking the organ or using the organ of someone who had, you know, by definition of it being the heart, is no longer with us, has passed away, for you to be able to live. And this kid is cracking jokes and showing you in the way that she talks with her caretaker, because as we mentioned in the summary, her mom hasn't been in her life for a while. Her caretaker is Kate, who is just one of my favorite characters of all time. We all need a Kate. Immediately their dynamic is apparent, their care for one another, their lighthearted banter with one another. And I think that sets the tone for the whole book, that dichotomy of having really tough issues that are handled with such love and such heart. So right away, I think you get you get a sample of what's going to be a through line throughout, is these tough issues handled with thoughtfulness and compassion.
Absolutely. And, you know, after finishing this, I wondered like what people who are actually her age felt about this book, you know, because these are topics that most kids never have to deal with. Most adults probably never have to deal with. So you know, I was like, wow, if I didn't have like my adult understanding brain, what would I think about this? And I don't even know, you know, especially like to think back to that age, like, I don't know. I think it's really important. And I think it's great if like children that age pick this up. But I was like, wow, like this is not like, I don't know. I think a lot of people, obviously a lot of people judge adults
Yeah.
reading middle grade or adults reading something like way below their reading comprehension or whatever,
Hmm.
however you want to say it. But I think that's a huge mistake, and we're like missing out on a lot if we don't pick up
Hmm.
books like this, you know?
Completely agree. And as for young people, I think, I worked for several years at the Boys and Girls Club, kids kindergarten through 12th grade. And I think it's funny because there's a lot of talk, of course, about what kids can and can't read and what topics they can or can't handle. And I think the conversation shouldn't be like, is this topic one a child cannot handle, with the exception of maybe a few things I can think of. It's more like, is this topic handled in a way where it's accessible for the child and there's some sense of reassurance. And I think that's what this book did really well, because kids kind of react in a way that would surprise a lot of people when you bring up things that you feel like, "Oh, how are they gonna handle it?" And it's like they handle it even better than you think, because they still have a lot of optimism, I think,
Yeah.
frankly. And some of the topics in this book, like an absentee parent, I think is really relatable for a lot of kids. So yeah, the heart transplant thing, I think maybe is so foreign to most kids and is handled with such care that, I don't think they would have too much trouble processing it. But some of the relationships in the book, the absentee parent, the fake best friend, which I know we'll get into, that's really relatable content for a lot of youth. And I think is handled really well. So I agree. I think it's accessible for adults. I think you get a lot out of it. And I think it's accessible for kids. And maybe we're not all getting the same thing out of it, but that's okay. That's not, the
Mhm.
purpose of stories is to kind of have it be a little bit of a mirror, in a sense, to reflect your own perspective and then see the story and see what comes back at you.
Yeah, for sure. And I wasn't questioning if, kids could handle this. It was more
Right.
like, wow, I wonder what they think about this,
Yeah, for sure.
what they would take away from this, because I think there's so much here and
Mhm.
certainly a lot that could be relatable to people. I think even kids who are sick, who
Mhm.
have to have some kind of surgery, like something, to see such a thing like represented like that.
Mhm.
We talk about representation a lot, and obviously there's a relationship here, and there are, even her family dynamic. I feel like it's so layered, and there's so
Mhm.
much that can be taken away from it, that I would hope kids who read this, like, just have a better understanding of people around them who may be going through this kind of
Mhm.
situations, because it's happening a lot and a lot of kids may not understand that. Like, I think this could really open like a whole new world of different people and stuff for someone. I mean, not even kids. I mean, I
Mhm.
think, obviously we can all get a lot from it, and I loved it. Can you tell?
I can tell I'm so excited
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. I'm so excited. Yeah, I also would wanna know what young people thought. I mean, I think they've done really well. They've sold well. That was before Bright Falls, meaning I think there are adults now coming back to this that have read Delilah Green, et cetera, and they're just kinda going back to the back catalog, although maybe not as many people as I would personally like to see go back to
Mm,
these books. But I think they sold pretty well. And Ivy Aberdeen, which we didn't talk about, I mentioned, deals with the fallout of a natural disaster. It deals with displacement, and that's happening a lot all over the country that we live in right now. And so it's really timely, and it's important to have those stories. And for both of these, and for Ivy Aberdeen, I don't know if you read any of the author's note in the back or any interviews with her, but she really intentionally wrote these books because she herself, Sunny in the book, as mentioned by the description, and we won't give spoilers, is questioning whether she's interested in boys at all. And Ashley Herring Blake didn't really come into her own sexuality until she was much later in life. And so she realized, like, I don't think it came about in my mind that I could think I was anything other than straight, because I didn't see any of those stories. And so it's really important to write so that, children know. And that could be someone who's going through questioning, as you mentioned, but you pointed out, you made a great point earlier when you said it's for other kids too, who aren't having a major surgery, or who aren't questioning their sexuality, or who don't have an absentee parent, to be able to see and hear, and get inside the head of someone going through that, can really help, because when they're talking to their friends who are going through that, those friends may not have the words themselves. And so it can create a little bit of a barrier, and something like this could really break down barriers to at least identify what the feelings are. And that's really what you need, is to be able to connect on those feelings.
Absolutely. Also, I'm sad because I think the hardcover doesn't have an author's note.
Oh, I'll have to send you mine then. I
Yeah, there's
think
just
they're
like
in both.
acknowledgments. So
Yeah, I think it's in both of my copies. Oh, the one redeeming quality of
there you go, I guess.
ha- having a paperback. Were there any things that didn't really work for you that you would change up in this one?
I don't think so. And
Wow.
that's not a good critique, I guess. But I'm just
No, I
like, I
love it.
can't
It's
think
what
of
I want to
anything that
hear. No.
bothered me. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that too. I think rereading, so this is actually my fourth time reading this one. It was my second time reading this one. So that was interesting to go back to this one because I haven't been back. Some of the pros you mentioned most of them. I personally related a ton to Sunny when it came to um, questioning her sexuality at a young age. Definitely related to that, and we'll get into some of the instances of that in the spoiler section. But I also related to Quinn, the friend that she meets on her kissing quest, because Quinn's family moves a lot, and my family moved a lot as well. And there's a section in the book where Quinn is talking about how her memory isn't great, and that's because memory is often associated with all the senses, including a sense of place. So kids who move a lot don't have great long-term memory. There are other things that affect long-term memory, of course. But I've never actually I knew that from like therapy, but I never read that and certainly never read it in a way that's written for children. And I just thought, wow, if I had there were so many times when I was reading this, I was like, if I had this story when I was younger, I genuinely think I would have been a different person. And about middle grade, like I completely agree. And what I have found, like Ashley Herring Blake, is when I read these stories about especially kids coming into their queer identities, it heals a part of me. Like even when they deal with homophobia sometimes or kids who don't understand, it heals a part of me to hear all of those thoughts on paper in a way that I would have had them at that age and understood them at that age. And it's so validating. And I never realized until this book how therapeutic it was because when I read this a year and some change ago, I read several middle grade. Now that there's lots of options with main characters that are kind of coming into their queer identities. I think that's just so important. So I shared a lot of the same thoughts. The only additional one, and we'll get into her character, is to contrast to Imogen. Obviously, one of my biggest troubles with that was the antagonist, the person who questioned Imogen a lot, and was really a sore spot in Imogen's coming out process. That person didn't really get redemption, and I felt like their character wasn't treated in a respectful way, in my opinion. And the fake best friend in this story, who after a certain encounter happens with Sunny, where this character learns that Sunny might be questioning her sexuality or something might be different, kind of turns away from her. That character is more than redeemed, and their perspective is really like validated and comes to light. And there's a really healthy healing and conversation that gets to happen. And I guess it gets me to this thought about all Ashley Herring Blake books, which is all of the characters are treated with so much respect and dignity. And it deals with these hard topics, but people aren't mean spirited to one another. There's like a genuine integrity to people. And you can make complicated characters like a woman who would leave her child in Lena, her absentee mother. And you don't have to have that person be like a total monster without redeemable qualities. Like, in fact, it's better to be able to see all those perspectives. So, yeah, those were the additional pros. And for me, there were a few cons just to say both of these books have heavy mermaid
Yeah,
imagery.
it is true.
And it's less so in this one. So it's less distracting to me because it doesn't come up often. But it feels like we just didn't totally need it, in my personal opinion. And then I would have liked a bit more about, I thought the connection to the heart donor and like the thoughts of like, I get to live my life and this person doesn't. It comes up a couple times, and maybe doing it too much would be too heavy for youth. So I'm going to give it that. But I thought it might come up a bit more and it doesn't. But I that's really it. And that's me trying to search for things. I love this book, obviously. It was my favorite book of the year that I read it.
I think those are totally fair, especially the mermaid thing, because that's as something I can't connect to. But I know a lot of kids love mermaids, and
That's true.
So
I loved Ariel when I was little. That's true. That's
I
true.
did too. I did
Yeah.
too. And a good point in the chat, real quick. Children's books have
Mm.
evolved so much because the new authors try to connect with the kids as an equal instead of dumbing
Ah,
things down.
this is such a great point. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that point.
absolutely. That's so true, right? Like, I think people, the more we all evolve as humanity, the people understand, oh, we don't have to dumb things down for kids. Like, they need to be on a different level, actually, than perhaps they used to be, years and years ago.
I honestly, I would take it even further. Like when people are writing about the experiences of minority groups, I also think there's a temptation sometimes to make it more accessible to people not in that group. And I think there's a lot that's lost from that. Like there is value in bridging and having the conversation after they've taken in the piece of media or the art and they're not understanding things. But I don't think any minority group should be toning down. It should ooze and feel very genuine to that experience, because I think people understand genuineness even if they don't understand the trappings that it's in. Like I think people do see when things feel authentic, I guess is the word. Even if you don't have that experience yourself, there's something about authenticity that runs deep, I think. um Anyways, yeah, so ratings wise,
Mm-hmm.
Mighty Heart, and I realized I did put stars for Mighty Heart, I just hadn't put them
Oh,
for Hazel. so
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 we
this is perfect.
same, yeah, same. Here we are. Here we are. Where's it at? Here we are.
Oh,
Boom.
beautiful, we love to see it.
Boom.
5 stars, no notes.
No nuts.
I love this book. I love it.
I also love this book.
I'm so glad.
I'm keeping it. It's great.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm very glad.
Sometimes I love a book and I don't keep it. I'm
Yeah,
keeping it.
you're like, I loved it and I'm keeping it. It's
Yeah.
like my mom used to say when I was little, I like you or I love you and I like you. Like
Oh, that's
two
nice.
two layers, two layers. Yeah. A lot of random facts about my parents tonight.
I love it.
Yeah, so our second book, Hazel Bly and the Deep Blue Sea, I believe this came out in 2021. It's the third book, and a quick summary. Deep in the ocean where the current slips free, there lives the Rosemaid, or Rosemary Lee. Hint, hint, this is going to be the mermaid that comes up quite a bit in this book. Hazel Bly used to live in the perfect house with the perfect family in sunny California. But after Mum's tragic death in a kayaking accident, Hazel is left with crippling anxiety and a jagged scar on her face. And for the last 2 years, the Bly girls have lived all over the country with their other mother, Mama, never settling anywhere for long. Their next stop, Rose Harbor, Maine, a small town obsessed with the local 150-year-old mermaid myth. They are obsessed with it, I can confirm. When Mama runs into an old childhood friend, Claire, suddenly Hazel's tight-knit world is infiltrated. To make it worse, Claire has a daughter Hazel's age, Lemon, who can't stop rambling on and on about the Rosemaid. Soon, Hazel finds herself just as fascinated with the Rosemaid as Lemon is, because what if magic were real? What if grief really could change you so much you weren't even yourself anymore? And what if, instead, you emerged from the darkness stronger than before? Yeah. So, Kristen,
Yeah.
what did you think about Hazel Bly and the Deep Blue Sea?
Do you want some specific likes, perhaps?
Yeah, what were
Or
the things you liked overall, and what were the things that didn't work for you as much overall?
That's kind of a spoiler, I guess. Okay. I have a comment that I'll say for later.
Okay.
I liked Hazel's friend group.
Mm.
We had a non-binary character. We had just a good supportive friend group that she ends up having. I liked that she felt her feels the whole time, right? She clearly went through something very traumatic. A lot of trauma in both books, but like this was extra traumatic. I feel like it was
Yeah,
very traumatic.
this is one that I do think, just really quickly, in my reread, especially, I was like, this one should have had a bit of a trigger warning at the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the memories are so vivid that you kind of see it. Whereas, like, I think Mighty Heart never crosses a line where it's super needed, but here I actually do, because it's not just death of a parent; it's like a lot more visceral than that, which we can get into in spoilers.
Right. And I believe, I mean, that's one of my cons, because I think that could have been easily done and it wasn't, and that's a bummer.
Agreed. Yeah,
But
it is a bummer.
But yeah, and I guess another con I would agree would be there's a lot of mermaid talk. However, it did bring all the characters together, and And that was nicely done. Her relationship with her mother, who's still alive, was hard throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very hard. I felt for Hazel a lot throughout those moments.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that as a kid, I could step back from the situation and be like, okay, maybe not everything is as she feels it is, but she went
Mm.
through a traumatic thing. She has a lot of anxiety about it. I think it was really cool to see a book about a character that has anxiety who has not received any help for it to get through that and like experience panic attacks and you know again that well we can address some more things in spoilers, but that was nice to see. I liked seeing that. I feel like that's good representation for some kid who may experience those feelings and not know what it is. um
Yeah, and she did go to therapy. She mentions her therapist a couple of times, but wasn't seeing a therapist currently when the
right,
story's taking place, right? Yeah.
right. um yeah, and she keeps all of that inside and like doesn't tell anyone, which obviously doesn't help. But
Mm-hmm.
I think stepping back from that and being like, oh wow, if I was a kid like feeling these things and not knowing what it is, I had anxiety as at least as a teenager, and I'm not sure that I understood what that was either. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get help for it for a long time, but um, I think kids. I like to step back and be like, what could a kid get from this? And I think
Mm.
that is something that could be huge for a lot of kids reading this and be like, wow, I have these feelings and I didn't know that like potentially I could get help for them and like this,
Mm-hmm.
because there's still so much stigma and people don't talk about it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
certainly a lot of parents probably don't be like, hey, if you feel a certain way, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's a big positive from it for sure.
Mm. Mm.
But yeah, those are my initial thoughts, I think.
Yeah, and I didn't mention this in the Sunny, but I think one thing I love about both of them is it feels like there's a trend. I think it's more YA than middle grade usually, where the parents are just like one note, not in the story. You don't care about the parents at all. They're just like there to bring out the story of the youth. But I actually would like love reading a book, for example, about Kate, the woman who cares for Sunny, and Lena,
Mm,
her real mom, and their friendship. Prior to this, I would love like an adult series about that.
yeah.
Similarly, I was like really feeling for Mama, and I was really liked Claire. The character Claire has a lot of moments, in fact, with Hazel that I thought were really powerful because Claire, not a major spoiler, also deals with anxiety. And so that was an adult who gave her some words and some tips and some tricks outside of the therapy sessions that I'm sure were very focused on the specific event of her mom's death. Um, but yeah, it's funny you say this. I'm going to start with my cons because I actually in this one, and I felt this way the first time I read it, but I extra felt it this one in a way that was distracting. I actually don't love the friend group. I think Lemon for me, I did like with Lemon's Claire's daughter.
Hmm.
The other friends, Jules and I forget the other one's name, starts with a K. Um,
Kiko, I think.
Kiko, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike them, but I wanted to use their pages up for something else, I guess is kind of how I felt.
Well, and
I
to be fair
Yeah.
to that point, like we didn't get a ton of them. I
No.
think what I'm feeling is more like I'm glad that she eventually had that group and like she cared about them,
Mhm.
because she needed something. But yeah, we didn't get enough of them. We didn't. That's true.
I think what they're meant to do is, as the summary said, she's moved a lot since her mom's death, and this book is a lot about finding your home, finding your developing new roots, and I think that's probably why they were in there. What I would have changed up, I'll save for spoilers, which is one of the friends and the dynamic that builds there that I think, again, just took up more pages than I probably would have loved. This one, the mermaid one, is such a part of the book, and I just didn't care about the mystery. I didn't care the first time I read it, but I was so awestruck by all the other things that were included that it didn't distract me. This time it did genuinely take it down just a bit for me. Again, we'll get to the rating. I also think the pacing in this one is not quite as good as Sunny. It feels a bit whiplashy, and I do think it's because there's so many different stories that didn't like coalesce in like a really even way, and they did in the way they did with Sunny for me. Um, but yeah, again, I loved the adults here. I also really like I love Hazel. I mean, I love both of these kids. I want to like protect them forever. And one thing that I loved about Hazel and one thing I love about Ashley Herring Blake's writing is people are so honest with their emotions. They're so raw, but not in a way that leaves you feeling cold. So even, her mom has died. And that, when that happens for young people, often they fear other people will leave them. And so like even she says at one point, when she's leaving the friend group on like a casual note, she just says, I'm going to leave them all before they leave me. And there's so much of that in here and it breaks your heart. But I think the redemption at the end in both books, really doesn't leave you feeling cold or like raw, really. But the emotions are so authentic and genuine and just honest in a way that I just don't think you see in most books, period, for adults, for middle grade, etc. But yeah, I agree with the trigger warning thing. I also agree certainly that like I loved the way anxiety was talked about in this book. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I am a social worker, so I have some of the same background. My job is usually traditionally to refer people to get a diagnosis versus actually diagnosing, and I would say that she has potential PTSD, if I had to name it. And I also think like that was really interesting, and you don't see that in kids books. So yeah, I mean, obviously I really like it. I would never say otherwise, but I did notice a couple of things that just bothered me more on the second one. None of them though were major issues for me, if that makes any sense. So those are kind of my overall Hazel Bly thoughts. So that said, what are you thinking for stars? And I'm going to put mine on while you're talking.
Oh, maybe
Yeah.
we both, let's see. I got to get my stars out. I think this was an easy one to rate for me as well.
Oh,
I don't know about
okay.
you. Did you have the same rating the second time around? That's what I'm
No.
curious about. No.
So this full, I mean, we're going to show it in a second. It's not really,
Yeah.
really that dramatic, but these were both 5-star reads for me. Ivy Aberdeen, and I'm interested to reread that one now, like, because it's been a while, was like a 4-star read for me. I still really love it. I own it. To use Kristen's metric from earlier, I'm going to keep it. I recommend it to people, but it isn't my favorite of the three. I always thought it was kind of like, well, I won't tell you exactly, but Sunny certainly was in the lead. But I always thought like, oh, these are like no holds bar recommendations, both of them. And I will say the things that second time around took me down just a bit.
Okay, interesting.
What about you?
Oh, I was going to say I knew you were going to cut one. I feel like you're cutting one. See, and I think that's the difference between us because I still can't get myself to actually rate anything with a half or like in anything.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be a difference there. But yeah, I did feel like I will say before I show a rating that this one made me cry.
Oh, really? Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, this one made me cry. Not like the whole time, but
No.
yeah, there were moments. I think we'll get into the spoiler because it's kind of a spoiler.
Well, to share, Sunny St. James has made me cry 3 different times. It didn't this time around. I think the 4th time I was kind of prepared.
You're like, I gotta.
But my heart gets, like, I don't know when you cry, but like sometimes when I cry and I don't want to cry, I get this like really painful choke in my neck. Like I'm like, because I'm trying to stop it. And I did get a little bit of that with Mighty Hearts again. So
yeah. And I mean, I wasn't like, tears were not falling.
Listen,
it's
just
okay
like,
if you teared up. I'm just
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
You want to see mine first or you want to go? I know you have
Oh,
something.
I want you to go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe I cut it and I gave it 5.5. Mark said I could do whatever I wanted. So
and listen, I don't cut stars, so like
I know you
you're
don't.
not gonna get that here. But
wow. Oh, Kristen, this makes me want to cry. Sharing these, I'm being so genuine.
Aww.
These characters mean so much to me, and sharing them, I've done a lot. I've actually pushed, especially Sunny, because I didn't read Hazel Bly, I think, for the first time till 6 or 8 months ago. Like it hasn't been even a full year. I know that. But sharing Sunny with the first person, immediately I felt vulnerable. Like it was such a weird feeling. Like I love this book so much. It's easily one of my favorite books of all time. Like easily. I don't know where it would rank because that's wild. I've just read too much, but it feels vulnerable every time I share them with someone else in a way that I'm not really sure if I looked at my shelf, I could think of another one like that. So that actually
Love
really
that.
makes me so happy. Like, I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, obviously we can have critiques for things and we can have problems for things, etc.
Absolutely.
But nothing was enough for me to bring it down.
Sure.
I just really love these characters. I loved Hazel the whole time.
Hmm.
And I felt for her and I liked how
Oh my
honest she was in
goodness.
her emotions, and yeah, I can say more in spoilers, but
Yeah, let's save them for spoilers. So for me, I mentioned this was 5 stars. I'm leaning like 4.25, 4.5. I'm not going to cut a star in 0.25. So it's going to be 4.5. And again, I think the main thing dragging it down was I just, to be frank, I wasn't as captivated as I was the first time. And sometimes that always happens on a reread because there's nothing racing forward to figure out what happens in the plot. But I think the parts that I was re-engaged with were not the mermaid thing. And so every time the mermaid thing came up or this other side plot that we'll talk about in spoilers, I just didn't really care as much. Like, I just kept feeling like I want to go back. I just wish we could go back in time and give those pages to something else, which is a wild like thought, but I just feel it so strongly. So it's still one that, generally I would recommend to anyone. I will say rereading it, the accident with the that are recounted later and how visceral that is. You're totally right about the trigger warning. And I'll be totally honest. The first time I read it, I wasn't even thinking about that because I wasn't triggered by it and I'm an adult. But especially rereading it, I was like, no, even when I recommend this book to adults, like, I really need to tell them that. It's not a spoiler. It's in the description. I think what is the spoiler is how visceral the memories of that are. They're pretty intense, I think, no
yeah,
matter your
yeah,
age,
I
honestly.
do agree. Yeah,
But yeah, 4.5 stars. And if any of you did get a chance to read either one, we would love to hear. It looks like Crazed
absolutely.
read some. There's a couple comments that have come in.
Yes, and I'm glad it got you too crazed. Appreciate that.
She's glad you were crying as well.
I was. Good afternoon, William. Yeah, we've been on for an hour, but we're glad you're here for sure. And
We've been
Elon's now
talking
more of a
candy.
chocolate person. Yeah, we're talking candy.
I've never been a huge chocolate person, but brownies, now we're talking. Brownie sundae.
You know what I like more than a brownie?
What?
You're gonna disagree so much.
I can't wait.
A blondie.
Oh my god, that's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Remember when you shared like your trauma earlier? And I didn't judge you at all. I'm judging you on that. You were like, I cried at this middle grade book. And I was like, that's so sweet, Kristen. Thank you for sharing. It's like, I want a blondie over a brownie. You're dead to me.
Wow.
They're not bad, though. Actually, I don't mind blondies,
Oh.
but I wouldn't put it over a brownie. That's
Listen,
wow.
I haven't even had a blondie in like ages. I'm just saying.
One of our favorite Canadians has arrived.
Oh, I was like, what are we gasping at? Mark, hello. Good to see you.
Hey, Mark.
I was like, wait, which one on BB Can? Who is it?
What
Can you
if
imagine?
though? Oh
Can
my
you
god! What
imagine?
if a BB can? I couldn't imagine. I would die. No one else in the chat would know who they were but
No,
us.
but we'd be like, oh my gosh, is that really them? Like, what's happening?
It's a Twistos twist. Mark is here.
Twistos twist.
Welcome, Mark. We just finished the Gold Star segment. Kristen gave both books 5 stars. I gave Sunny 5 and Hazel 4.5. And now we're gonna get into the book report, talk spoilers. So yeah, open floor for a couple things we were sort of poking at in this in the non-spoilery. Things you didn't like, things you liked, things that you just think are worthy of kind of talking out a little bit.
I think so you were talking about the side characters and friends in Hazel in particular. So I want to hear what you were poking at with that. With I assume you mean the love interest.
Yeah. Jules. Yeah.
Yes. So you just didn't care for that?
Oh, I thought more was coming, and it felt so accusatory.
No, I was like, what were you trying to say?
So what did you feel about it? I just felt it was not necessary, I guess. Sunny definitely feels like a book that is about self-discovery in a lot of ways and coming of age. One of the things that Sunny says, because she always grew up in this small town, I'll get to Hazel. You're like, why have you pivoted? But I'm trying to paint kind of a contrast, I guess, about why I was okay with romance in one and not the other. For Sunny, she says at one point, because she lives on this small island, I've never met anyone who didn't know me already. when she meets Quinn. And it's tied to this theme that she has where she can be anyone. And that's extra boosted by the fact that she just got a new heart. And she has this thing where it's like, I'm new Sunny now. And so it's a lot about self-discovery, but also not turning your back on the people you have been, which she kind of learns over time, and the relationships that you had before. But hers is a lot about self-discovery. And I feel like Quinn being the love interest in Sunny, but the friend that she's on the boy kissing quest with. Quinn kind of serves two purposes. I think first and foremost, you get to know Quinn well enough throughout the book that I think you connect with Quinn on her own level. And she's such a safe place for Sunny to explore all of those feelings, not the romantic ones or not the ones where she's got a crush. The other ones like that we kind of mentioned in the non-spoilery section. And then when it pivots, it totally makes sense because she thinks a part of this new identity is like, well, I'm going to kiss a boy because my other friends are interested in that. And she discovers more about her own sexuality, and her and Quinn sort of develop a relationship. And one, mind you, where Quinn sort of pulls away for a second because it sort of freaks her out. And that feels very natural and real. And then it's resolved, right? So it felt like it was such an integral part of the story in that sense. Whereas with Jules, I didn't dislike Jules. I will say one thing I loved about Hazel Bly is there was so much education around LGBTQ plus terminology, including non-binary identity, that was so naturally placed and so digestible for young people. It was just a masterclass. Very well done. We bow to you, Ashley Herring Blake. If we never gave you roses before, you've got many bouquets on your patio now. But, I think Jules, it was cool to have Jules be that representation. It was fine to have Jules be a part of a story where, now I've got friends. But any of the moments that were just between the two of them, to me, didn't really add to Hazel's story. And so later when she's like, oh, I kind of like Jules, I was like, cool. Like it just didn't feel necessary. And so it distracted me. But it's not like so off-putting or anything, obviously.
Sure.
I think anyways,
what I took most from that relationship and why I felt like I didn't feel like it was distracting and I liked it ultimately was, she obviously had so much understandably self-consciousness about her scarred face.
Yeah,
she has
very
a
true.
very big scar on her face and she's always trying to hide it and hide it. She doesn't want people to look at it. So for her to have someone who looked at her and was like, no, you're beautiful. And it's not
Sure.
someone who has to say that like her mom or her sister or anything like that.
Mhm.
Just someone else who was
Mhm.
actually interested in her in like that and like,
Mhm.
looked at her and wasn't disgusted. That's kind of what like I thought it was
Okay, yeah,
really
I
nice
can
for her
definitely see
to
that.
for her to have that experience and know that like, because there was a moment where like she's like every time she got a compliment from Jules, like anything like that, she would touch her scar and be like,
Mhm.
really? Like this is how you really like you really
Mhm.
think that I look nice? Okay.
Yeah.
Like and I like that. I like those little moments for her.
Yeah, that's true. I could see that 100%. And like I said, it's such a minor part of this book, if I'm honest with you, that even if what
Yeah.
I said, you were like, yeah, I don't love when romance is jammed in. It's really not. It's very much a non thing. I also want
Yeah.
to say I thought it was so cute, the pronouns conversation, because this
Yeah.
is so what kids would do. I don't know if you caught on to this. Hazel comes into the friend group. Hazel's one mom was lesbian, one mom was bisexual. So she has two moms. So she's like in the community. She's pretty good with like terminology. She also had friends in California that identified different ways. One friend particularly was non-binary. They use they them pronouns. So when Hazel first meets Jules has to like ask me about my pronouns, and so Hazel is having this internal monologue like, oh, I remember how much it made my other friend happy when people did that, so I'm going to do that. They do that, but before Hazel can say hers, Jules uses she her for
Yeah.
Hazel and then says, and what are your pronouns? And I just thought that was so cute though. Like, I don't know if it was
Yeah.
intentional or not, but first off, that happens with adults too, because it's just gender is so ingrained in you, things associated with um, cultural things that are associated with gender are so ingrained that even when you're trying to be intentional, it's like deprogramming that's very, very deep. So it was kind of cute seeing these little kids that were trying to be so good and so intentional and pure intentions. They still mess up. And then, Jules just sort of lets it go. It's not like they make a big deal about it. So anyways, I just thought that was, that was cute.
Yeah, I remember that moment too, and I was like, "Oh, that's cute. That's cute. That's definitely cute." And it's something like I'm like, "Wow, like again, what a great conversation." Like even just
Mhm.
that little moment alone for a kid reading this who maybe has never heard that before, maybe, doesn't know how
Yeah.
to handle those kind of things. It like you said, it was educational in a way that
Mhm.
didn't feel like here's a dictionary.
Mhm.
Read it like this. Like no, I mean, the great little moments with Hazel's sister too, who, was also just pure and
Peach.
sweet
Yeah.
and yeah,
Mhm.
Peach, like she had great moments like with making the little bracelet with the
Mhm.
non-binary colors too. Like
Mhm.
it was just sweet. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. And I really liked, you don't see, it's sort of interesting. My sister, not, you're just learning a lot about my family today. My sister and I have never been close, even when we were younger. But I also grew up with anxiety, and I felt a really strong protectiveness over her and making sure nothing happened to her. And like even to share a little bit, even when she would ask for things that were expensive, I would not ask for something even if I wanted it, even if it wasn't expensive, because I knew my parents would be paying a lot for it. And that's not something that is asked of you, but when you're a kid struggling with these things, it's so ingrained, and it's not something you're going to share, because in my head as a kid, I'm like helping my parents, which really is not my job, like as a child, and not something they were asking me to do. There were so many moments like that with Lemon, or with Peach, sorry, that really, a lot of fruit names in this book. We talked about fruit a lot
Yeah.
actually today. That reminded me a little bit about that dynamic, even though again I think that Peach and Hazel were a bit closer. um, but there's a real desire in Hazel to parent in her family and take on the responsibilities of being the parent. And speaking of parenting, one thing I absolutely loved that I don't know that I paid too close of attention to the first time was Hazel's mom, when she learns the depths of what's going on with Hazel even more. And again, Hazel did get therapy when her mom died in that accident. But when Mama and her have this sort of conversation later on, it comes out that the extent of it to her mama, and she says sorry, and she says, I should have noticed these things, and I should have done better, and I thought I was handling it right this way, moving a lot, keeping you busy, keeping you distracted, putting mom's stuff away so that you didn't get triggered. And I wasn't asking you like what you needed. And you just rarely, and you and I have talked about this, you just rarely see parents admit that they they were wrong. And there's something that's really healing. I don't think kids, I think the fear is that for the parent, maybe that you'll be seen less of an authority, you'll be
Mm.
losing some respect or whatever. But I think most youth after time especially see that as a sign of integrity, and they learn how to be a better person themselves watching you model that humility, and also model what it means to then try again and do better, because that's just how you're going to be your whole life. And so getting to see that on page was really cool. I really liked that. I don't think I gave as much weight to those moments the first read, for sure.
Yeah, I think especially the way it ended and all of the conversations they had that they weren't having was so nice to see. When I was getting like close to the end, I was like, "Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, they better talk!" Like, "Oh my gosh, what are they
Yeah.
doing?" Like, I was so worried about that. I had anxiety about the relationship, so
Mhm.
to finally see that, like, because we're seeing everything from Hazel's perspective, which
Yeah.
is very understandable. And the whole time, it's like you feel like, "Oh my gosh, this mom."
Mhm.
And the whole time, I'm also like, "Well, we're seeing it from her side. Like, I know there's something deeper here that just isn't being talked about. Like, they need to be communicating
Mhm.
because." Clearly Hazel's having a lot of problems. Like this needs to be
Mhm.
happening. And I love that they actually put like PTSD on the page at the end too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, cause she went and she got
Forgot
help
about
and they
that.
were like,
Yeah.
yeah. And she was like, they think I have something called PTSD. And like, she talks
Yeah.
about it for
You're
a
right.
second. And I'm like, wow, how great is that? Like, because of course you do. And also, to be able to get help for that and realize that her whole relationship and how it wrapped up with the sea too, like, was
Mhm.
really cool to see. And I wanted to say when I
Mm.
was talking earlier, so her relationship with Lemon, I really loved, and
Mhm.
I was so glad that this didn't go a route it could have taken where they had a relationship.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure not.
You
Also,
know,
that'd be so awkward.
well, it would be, of
No, I
course,
know what
how
you
it
mean.
ended up, but like, you don't know at the beginning like
Yeah,
what
for sure.
that's
Yeah.
gonna be, and they're
Mhm.
the ones on the cover, so it's like, oh, okay, and then
Mhm.
it went a different route, and I love that. Like I
Mhm.
also really like the Claire character. I love the little moments that she had with Hazel too, and yeah. Grace has a comment here. Hazel was
Hmm.
so frustrating in a good way. Thankfully, it got resolved before it became annoying. But I needed Mama to get it together, and you know, and that's hard, right? And seeing what the mom does at the end and what she says, and like you said, taking responsibility
Mhm.
for all that she got wrong and understood that,
Mhm.
like, because she obviously she had a bad traumatic experience as well, but yeah, for that to be admitted on page was great and really nice.
I mean, I literally, again, I would read books about these adults. You don't understand. You don't understand what I would sacrifice to get books about these adults. Even this same, honestly, this one especially, this same book, but an adult book from Mama's
From
perspective.
her perspective,
I apologize for
yes.
continuing to call her that because I forget her real name. Claire is the
Uh,
old friend that she
what is her
reconnects
mom's
with.
name?
Um,
Oh,
uh,
Evelyn, right?
Evelyn. Yeah,
Evelyn?
I
Yeah.
think that's right. Yeah. Um, I just can't imagine, to be honest, like when you're a kid or when you've not experienced it yourself, I imagine that you're like, the parents should always do better. They should know better. And the older I get, the more I realize, like, I don't remotely have it all together. Like, I just don't, and I'm not sure that I ever will. And so you're exactly right to point out that she went through this thing and now she's a single mom of two kids, and she even says how much, she tells Claire, kind of, and Hazel overhears, she tells Claire how much Hazel looks like her late wife. I just can't imagine like what what that feels like, because I'm not sure how you can properly grieve and take care of yourself while being the caretaker for two young people who have experienced arguably one of the worst things, particularly Hazel being there when her mother dies. I just like cannot imagine what that headspace must be like. And you'd almost have to build up in my opinion, like what I would probably do and what I maybe interpreted her as doing too is like building up a wall to protect herself a bit, thinking eventually I can address this a bit more, but like I'm not ready. And like I can't fault her for that. I just
Yeah.
can't. I know parents are supposed to do better for your kids, but I just, again, it just goes back to what we said. Like, I think Ashley Herring Blake does so well to point out people who've made mistakes that have caused real harm. In Sunny St. James, Lena leaving Sunny when she was 3 years old and hardly a peep, no, not a peep, and then comes back. Like, we should be mad at Lena, and we are in a way mad at Lena. I think most of the readers are at some point. But you just, once you interact with Lena, once you see things, even when she's making mistakes in the Sunny St. James book, I really think like you just see that people are multifaceted and they make mistakes, and that doesn't make them irredeemable, and it doesn't make them bad people. And I just think that's done so beautifully in these books, and I think she does it in her adult books as well. To be very clear, but I think it shines in her middle grade. To me, I've always said this to you. I really like Delilah Green. I enjoyed Astrid Parker. I just think middle grade Ashley Herring Blake is my Ashley Herring Blake for sure.
Yeah, no, and that all of that makes total sense, and I totally agree. And when you think about the mom and how she had to put up walls, I mean,
Yeah.
just for her to be able to like function and get her kids clothing, get food for her kids, she would have to, right? Like otherwise you're going to break down the whole time. You're going to like not
Yeah.
be around. So I think she had to do that for herself and for her kids. And then thankfully there'd been time, and when we finally got a resolution for like their relationship, it made sense. Time has passed and something new
Hmm.
was happening, and thankfully they were able to like finally communicate
Hmm.
and be there. And it worked. I just think it worked so well.
And one thing I really loved about, I want to share about Claire. I mentioned this in my non-spoilery, and now I can be a little bit more direct about it. Claire, the mama's love interest or childhood friend that then becomes a love interest. When Claire and Sunny do connect, or Claire and Hazel do connect, and it's ironic because Hazel's like kind of skeptical of her at first. She never really flat out doesn't like Claire, but she's like, I don't want her to replace my mom, which is like very valid. And Claire goes out of her way not to appear that way, but clearly is in love with Mama. But when they do connect over the anxiety thing, first off, when Claire shared about her planner, that's what I do to feel a sense of control as well. So I definitely related to that.
And
But
I
the
was like, I love
compassion,
planners. Love the planner talk in this.
and at the end when the planner comes, when
Yes.
because they're moving. Sorry, this is so disconjoined if you haven't read it. Claire presents the planner. Claire shares that she has anxiety. This helps her feel a sense of control, and she tells Hazel about it. What that moment also stood out to me more the second time. I liked it the first time. I was like, I really like Claire. I like that she's sharing. But it brought out this other point, which is that parents don't have to be the end all be all caretakers for young people. There's a reason there's a saying, it takes a village, because there are people who are going to have different life experiences. I take my honorary aunt responsibilities to my friends' kids very seriously, because there may be things that I have experienced in life, especially that they're going to experience that their parents will not know what to do with. They don't have that life experience, etc. And I want to be there because I think it is really important to have adults in your corner. It makes you feel safe. Makes you feel like, okay, what I'm going through, this person went through, and look at how much I look up to them, you know? And so I just loved that moment with Claire. I think it did paint this picture because we see Mama sort of off the page, taking it all on herself, maybe not handling it the best, but like, you don't have to be alone doing that. And I don't even mean that as like Claire as a potential partner later down the line. I just mean it as like Claire as another adult in life. And Claire's story, because we haven't talked about it, with Lemon and the other child in the family that passed away. We didn't even bring it up so far.
Yeah.
That was another like big moment where I was like, whoa, because you don't know at first. Lemon's talking about this person who was in their friend group, and then it's painted very clearly what's happened, and you see Lemon dealing with something entirely differently, for example, than Hazel. And there's a real discussion throughout the book about how grief looks different for different people. And I loved that discussion as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris has some thoughts. I love the dynamic with Peach. She was adorable. The friend group reminded me of the friend group in Turning Red. I like
Oh,
the little bit of magic at the end with the rings being found. Yeah, that's another thing we didn't even touch on, right? Like, Hazel at one point finds her late mother's wedding ring as well as her mom that's still around. And then she goes into the sea and loses them. And then she doesn't remember because she ends up in the hospital. She remembers later and she's like, oh my gosh, I hate that I have to like tell her that I lost these. This is awful. And then she's having a conversation with Lemon, and Lemon sees like a bundle of sand like on the porch or something,
right.
and picks it up, and there's the rings. So we're supposed to think, I assume, that
Yeah.
mermaid lady's real, and she came and brought him back.
Rosemary Lee. Yeah,
Yes.
Rosemary. It's a plot heavier book for sure. Like if you're looking for just objectively true things, I think Hazel Bly is way more plot heavy. And not again, it looks like Craze has a comment later where she shares that she liked Hazel a little bit more. It's subjective, you know. The objective thing is there is a bit more plot here. There's a bit more potentially magical realism, I guess, in a sense. Not very heavy though. I wouldn't call this magical realism. This one a little bit less plot heavy, a smaller cast. So this is just objective things to note that work better for some people than others.
Sure. And Mark makes a good point too. That level of complex characterization is so difficult at any let alone middle grade. Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Those honorary aunts and uncles are super important. My kids have benefited through those people in their lives.
Absolutely. I have too.
I think my only con for Sunny was that things seem to resolve so quickly and easily. Well, and I think reading them back to back, like it's like you said, you had a much smaller cast in Sunny as well. So there were more levels and layers going on here. And there's still a lot here, but
which is weird because this one's a little bit shorter. Also,
it is. Yeah.
It's interesting.
A little bit, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation for sure. Yeah. Trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to cover. What about you? Anything else coming up spoilers wise? Or are you interested in reading Ivy Aberdeen?
Absolutely. I need a reason to buy it.
Oh, you don't have that one? For
I
some reason,
don't
I
have
thought
that
you had
one.
all three.
No.
I'm still sad. I think I told you this. I really, for Christmas this past year, I wanted to get myself a signed copy of
Oh
Sunny St.
yeah.
James hardcover. Shout out Parnassus Books. I've told this story
Mhm.
so many times, but it was really great customer service. I ordered it. They're the book distributor she chooses. They're based out of, I believe, Nashville.
Nashville. Yep.
And I ordered from them the signed copy, and then they emailed me, and Ashley had moved and they weren't sure they could get it in. Then they couldn't get it in. They like refunded me, no question. And they were so kind about it. They were like very apologetic. And I was like, it's not your fault. But now I'm so regretting because Kristen and I couldn't go that day that it happened. There was a
Yeah.
signing in Tennessee, I think all at Parnassus.
Mhm.
And we were like, should we go? I think it was the Astrid Parker release, maybe.
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I could take my book. And now I'm truly not sure where she went.
I don't either, but I what I'm really hoping
Yeah.
is for Iris Kelly, right?
Iris Kelly doesn't date.
Yeah, I'm hoping she goes back there and we're able to go
Ugh,
because like
we're
how great.
doing hell or high water. We're getting to
We
Nashville. It's
have
not even
to.
far, but it was just I
Yeah.
couldn't go that day.
I couldn't either. I mean, so it sucked, but yeah. Yeah,
Ugh.
because like we'll just be like, here's all the middle grade that other people here may not have. Like
I just, and to I guess close out just overall Ashley Herring Blake, I just can't recommend. Ivy Aberdeen is still very good. If you liked either of these or loved either of these, pick that up. I think you'll still really enjoy it. It's third for me out of the middle grade, but I love them all. And if you haven't read her YA, I think How to Make a Wish is one of the best one. There is a heavier if you're into more like heavy themes and plot. I think that is it called Girl of Snow or Girl Made of Snow?
I think it's Girl Made of Stars. Is that
Girl
what
Made of Stars.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's about a young woman in high school whose brother was accused of rape by her friend and the complex feelings that that brings up. It's very good. How to Make a Wish is very good. Again, a great example of another seaside tale from Ashley Loves a Coastal
True.
Town.
That's true. Maybe that's
Dealing
where
with
she
heavy
went.
themes.
She was like, Nashville.
She
Let's
she
get
did
outta
live
here.
in an island off Georgia, I think,
Okay.
last time that I checked. Stalking her to get my book signed. And yeah, I will say those are more thematically grouped. Like I think the middle grade YA are very similar. I agree, though, Kristen can talk more eloquently that some of the ways that she handles characters and themes are still present in her adult books, but they are a bit more like romance heavy than like that's more the focus than especially in Ashford Parker, I think, more than these. But I think it's worth a shot checking out Delilah Green if you haven't read it yet. What do you think, Kristen?
I think that's a great idea. I read it and then I read it again a few months later. And honestly, maybe I need to read it again before Iris Kelly. We'll
You know
see.
what I'm just realizing? Hold on.
What?
Claire is also the name
Oh,
in Delilah
okay.
Green, and she's also a single mom. I guess I mean, it's definitely not the same Claire because
You're right.
the
But what a great crossover moment that was in Hazel.
yeah.
I loved that when
Do
she
you want
was
to
like,
share?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Hazel had this book about the ocean, and she's like, yeah, my favorite ocean photographer or whatever she was called is so and so, which is the mom from this, but one of the
Quinn's
moms from
mom.
this book, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait,
I
that's
wonder.
nice. I like that.
I didn't pick up on any Ivy Aberdeen references, but I wonder if they're there. And it's been so long that I can't recall. But yeah, check them out. Obviously, this is an Ashley Herring Blake Stan account.
Yeah, that's right.
Officially now you've almost got half her works in the bag.
It was one of my goals this year to finish her back catalog. So
You're very close.
I know I need the letter one. You just said it.
Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World. It is a long title. It's got a cute cover too.
We got Ivy. It is a cute cover. And then Suffer Love, which I know is like her first YA, and I don't know that I'm gonna like it, but guess what? I bought it for $1. So
yeah, it's not great, but if you want to be a completist, it's fine.
I'm determined. Yeah. And I have Girl Made of Stars, so
yeah, I think you'll like that one. It is heavy. What an interesting thing to be thinking about. I won't go on about it, but I read it actually amidst a lot of like Me Too conversations about some high profile actors. And it's just interesting because people often ask when those conversations come up, how should you respond if the person that you love is the one accused? Like, how do you respond to that? And this book sort of shows an example of that and the denial that comes with that. And I think what she does great is you really like this guy. And again, none of this is a spoiler. It's literally the plot of the book, the back, but you really like the kid at the beginning. And so Ashley does that intentionally. Like, you see why she loves her brother, why she really likes him, and why he seems like such a great dude. So it's quite interesting. I think that you'll enjoy it, but it is a bit heavy. Before we move into beach reads and talk about what we're currently reading, I want to address Mark's comment. Thank you, Mark. Also, 5-4 and penalties sucks, but 0-4 sucks more.
Yeah, it went by.
Mark, I'm really Canada. That is a wild story. Canada won, if people don't know, their women's soccer team won the gold medal at the Olympics just not too long ago. And like many countries, Canada's women's soccer team is currently fighting with their federation for equal pay. And so for some teams, that really fires you up. For other teams, it's understandably a distraction. And I think probably some of that played in a little bit. But devastating to go out before knockouts. But yeah, thank you, Mark. That was a brutal way to start my morning, but we played very well. I'm very proud of how we played overall. Yes, very true.
And also, apparently, his house feels like BB can. There's 5 adults here. That's funny.
Do you evict one another?
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you remedy that?
Love it. Beach reads, Kristen, or chat, what are you reading if you are reading anything or planning to read this week? Kristen, what have you very recently read? What are you currently reading? Tell me about it.
You know, I'm going to check my Goodreads because I'm like, what did I recently read that wasn't what we just talked about? So I did finish The Only One Left by Riley Sager, which you know because you were like,
I'm going to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I did finish Lights because I know I mentioned that last time. I did finish and loved Lights. I'm so excited for everybody to read it. I'm excited to own it physically and very stoked for that. So that's some of the stuff.
I'm so jealous of your early copy of Lights.
It's happening soon. I think it's next month, right?
September. Yeah, end of September for sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, I have downloaded and listened to the first couple chapters of The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Is that right? Is Riley Sager a man, a woman?
A man.
I know they wrote Final. Oh man, and he wrote the Final Girls, right?
Yeah, Final Girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm really interested to get started with that. I haven't yet. I did also recently finish, and I told you I didn't like, which was devastating not to like this book. What was it called? These are audiobooks, so I don't.
Oh, that's Summer Feeling.
That Summer Feeling by Bridget Morrissey may have been a debut, not sure. Ultimately, the characters felt very hollow to me. It's a romance, and like you, especially with romance, because romance is just not about the plot usually. Like it's the vibes entirely. That's how it is. And it just, I didn't care about either of the characters, and even the plot felt a bit strange to me. It was like a week-long summer camp for adults. So not a huge fan, but excited because I did finish that audio to start The Only One Left. I don't know why I keep trying to call it something else. But Kristen, guess what I did?
What?
2 things. I mentioned at the end of the last one, I was going to read Black Cat, Jed McKay. Chaos, calamity. A couple people in the chat know because I messaged them how airheaded I had a real moment. But Marvel did some renumbering during this. And as you see, the volume number on the spine from the library is covered up. I love my library.
So
Fine free. They order me things. Their only crime is no hoopla. But this is their second crime. It's a misdemeanor, but it's
not a felony. But
not having hoopla is a felony.
That's a felony. I was going to say that's definitely a felony.
Straight to jail. Straight to jail. It turns out I actually was missing 2 volumes of this, but I finished everything else and I did really like it. I mentioned I was trying to read it before the Omni went back up to from like 54 to like 60, whatever, 62, 60 something on in stock. I didn't get a chance to get it read before that, but I'm okay. I think this is one where if I find the trades for a good price, I would definitely pick it up. I would certainly reread it.
I thought it was really funny. I don't know anything about Black Cat other than she steals stuff. But I thought it was funny and it had a good story. I was really surprised at like the story, the plot, I guess, of this like father figure in her life, and really loved it. Also didn't know it was going to be a little gay, and that was a pleasant surprise. So,
Awesome.
got that. I will try to track down the volumes I couldn't read. And then it finally happened. Finally. Hasn't happened this summer yet. I read a Spider-Man.
Wow. I
Also,
haven't read that Spider-Man.
I know, and this cover was funny to me. I almost told you about it, but I was like, let me just wait to tell her at the show because, of course, it's like the Superman. Yeah. This is I love Chip Zdarsky. If there was a run that I was going to check out, it was going to be this one. It was interesting because on Goodreads, people really had this at like 3.5 star average, and they were like, especially about this volume, they were like, it's so basic. I already know this story, which I was like, that's most comics for the big two, BTW. But I really had fun with it. It's a little dialogue heavy. Chip Zdarsky, that's his jam a lot. So I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. This was really great. It was like 4.25 stars. I will say I read. You should read it because I'm trying to read it to see if I want to get the Omni later. I'm doing my homework early.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart.
I read the second volume. I didn't like it as much. That one was probably like a 3.5. But as for plans about what to read soon, I will be reading volume 3. I got like the first 5 from the library. And then I want to crush my mini comic list. So I've got a few. This is one that I picked up post Portland, but if you saw the episode, I picked up a bunch in Portland. So those are some of the things that I've just finished and that I want to get going on.
Nice. We love that. I am currently listening to The Secret Summer Promise. Are you familiar with this one?
I've seen the cover.
Okay.
But I'm not.
Some queer YA. I don't know yet. I'm not that far into.
Some queer YA.
Yeah, I guess. So there's that. I also... What things I want to read? I want to read Twig really soon.
I do. I saw that on your show yesterday with Jess, and I was like, I want to read that too.
Yeah, that's happening. As the Crow Flies, I really want to pick this up soon too. Have you heard about this one?
No. I saw it on the show. Didn't you show it?
Yeah,
on the show?
I did, but I didn't say anything about it.
Okay.
I can read the back if you'd like.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Charlie is 13 years old, queer, Black, and questioning what was once a firm belief in God. So naturally, she's spending a week of her summer vacation stuck at an all-white Christian youth backpacking camp. As the journey wears as the journey wears on and the rhetoric wears thin, she can't help but poke holes in stuff with little regard to herself. Okay, something about Sydney. There was a lot. I felt like I didn't want to read it halfway through, but that's all you need to know, really.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well,
it looks.
It kind of reminds me, not exactly, but what was that book I picked up that I thought was going to be middle grade? Reed was laughing because it's about religious trauma. It was something about the Bootleg Society.
Oh.
And I was like, whoa, this is for adults. And Reed was like, she really walked in it. I did enjoy it, but I was like, whoa, I got a lot. But that kind of
like that book I sent you that I got from the library. That was
that was funny. Do you still have it?
I do. It's in the other room, but
dang it, because it is deceptive. I will say
it is deceptive,
and I think it proves the point that. Certainly most librarians are higher tier than this, but like maybe that the average person who doesn't read comics or graphic novels assumes they are all YA or younger accessible. Like that's a big misconception. Like, oh, a book with pictures, it must be for a young person.
Yeah. Well, and I did look at the spine. Like it was not, because I was worried that it was actually like stickered on misplaced, but it looks like a librarian just shoved it back in the wrong spot because it did not say on the side that it was for children. So
that's good.
Yeah. So that's good. But I do still have the Do's and Donuts of Love, which I think I need to start soon. So I mentioned last time. And I also picked up one that's been sitting on my shelf, and I'm like, this maybe just got me in a mood to read like YA or younger right now. And that's A.S. King's Switch.
Oh, I need to read some A.S. King.
I feel the same. I know A.S. King has been talked about on BookTube forever. and I don't think I've read any of her stuff. So this has been sitting there. I think I got this for like $1 in like a half price book Black Friday
Yeah.
sale. And I was just like, yep, A.S. King. Everybody talks about A.S. King. And it's pretty thin. So I'm like,
Yeah,
maybe I
that's
just need to start this.
like
Yeah.
250 pages, maybe
Yeah,
230.
probably. Not bad at all. Maybe even less.
Hmm.
220-ish. Okay.
Hmm.
We love a small book.
We really do.
We do.
I need to get my prose act together. We were chatting this week actually about how you were surprised that you've read, I would say, 3 times as much prose as me in the last maybe 2 months.
Doesn't feel right.
I'm just not in the mood right now, I guess.
Hey, it happens. I totally get it. And
Yeah.
now I feel like I'm kind of in the mood because I've read, these Ashley Heron Blake books. I'm like, oh, I need to keep going. But maybe I need to pick up Girl Made of Stars, which is in the other room.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Iris Kelly comes out in November, is that right? So
October and November, yeah.
okay, October maybe. So I should reread the other 2. It's been a bit. I read Astrid, was it Christmas maybe? Just this past Christmas, so it's been a while. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, sounds good.
We will be reading, or do you want to catch up on the chat first? It's up to you.
Oh,
It's also not like a major spoiler what we're reading next.
it's not. Hello, Freddie. Oh my gosh, so much to catch up on later. Still in the sip. I gotta throw some good vibes to Jess.
Thanks. It was a rough morning, Freddie. I hope that your day on set goes by quickly though, and it's a lot of fun.
For sure. I do need a diary room. Don't we all? And apparently Mark needs to send books to you.
I mean, I'll read them.
I'll read them. I should totally send you guys British candy. Ooh.
Oh.
You would love that.
Books and British candy. Wow.
Love that. Wow. I'm going to get you to read The Alchemist. I've already been peer pressured into buying Clementine by Tilly Walden.
I love The Alchemist. Have you read The Alchemist, Kristen?
I actually haven't. I know a lot of people read that in school, but I have not.
I didn't read it in school. I do think it's assigned a lot though in like high school, but one of my friends recommended it while I was in high school, and it was actually one of the first adult books that I think I picked up on my own. You know what I mean? Like from her recommendation. I think I was still reading a lot of YA or adult books that were like assigned in school. So yeah, I think you really like it. It's a beautiful book.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it for sure. But yeah, what we're reading next.
We are reading
some honkin' beasts. Look at these.
The first one's actually not as big as I remembered. It's not too bad.
Yeah, this one feels like a lot, but I don't know. Maybe not. The good news is, from what I remember, they're quite breezy to get through. So love that.
Yeah, they're dialogue light. So we're reading the first 48 issues of The Walking Dead. If you don't have the compendiums, it's compendiums 1 and 2.
My
bad. We're reading the first.
I was like, are we?
Let's do it again. Roll the tape.
Okay.
We're reading the first. I don't have the second one in front of me. 99, 100,
96.
96 issues. Kristen's like 48.
I was like, whoa.
Of The Walking Dead. And I believe, Kristen, you said you've probably read this first one, but not the second one. Is that correct? Your memory?
I never read via compendium.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I read it all from my library, like back in the day. Like it's been many years. I want to say I got through at least the first, maybe half this one. I can't remember.
Okay.
It's possible all of them. I don't know. Not all of them, but like these two.
And there are 4 compendiums, not 3, because Jessica thought that. And I still have never seen 4 in the wild, which makes me believe it's out of print, which will cause me anxiety if I decide I actually do want to keep these and I love them. I've read...
They may be evergreen. I don't know.
I don't know. They're redoing them all in color. I know that. Which maybe we can talk about.
Yeah.
I've read the first 2 compendiums. I have the third one, but I actually never read it. I kept getting confused. I was reading it alongside the show, and I kept getting confused between the plots. And now I haven't watched the show for years. I think it just ended, the main one, but I understand that there are spinoffs. So I'm kind of like really eager. These have been on my shelf. I haven't read them in years. And I'm like, I need to reread these kind of for, if I'm just totally transparent, to know, do I still want to keep them? Like, was this a thing I was super into and now maybe less so? Or will my love for the story be reignited by revisiting the comics? And I'm not really sure. So that's kind of just why I'm really eager. And I know you wanted to finish too, because you didn't get to finish the first time.
Yeah, and I can't remember if I got close. I may have gotten close to 100 issues, but it's been so long that I'm not going to remember a lot of this. I also at some point dropped off the show. That was not on purpose. I just like, I don't know. I think I
Yeah.
literally forgot where I left off, and I'm like, that means I'll have to rewatch everything, and it's a lot. But I have a history with it too. Reed and I went to Walker Stalker Con one year. We met a lot of people. Andrew Lincoln.
Did you
other
go
people.
to the Walking Dead Day in Cynthiana?
I did not do that.
I did.
You did. So you're way cooler.
No, it's really not. I mean, it's very cool. Do things by yourself. But it's funny. I think about that day all the time. I actually had a blast. It was so fun. I'd been to Cynthiana before, but like I hadn't. Am I right? That was in Cynthiana. Yeah. I don't know why I'm.
Yeah. Because that's where Kirkman's from. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I was like, that's the wrong town. But what was funny about it is I had 2 coworkers that really also wanted to go. We were all going to go together. And then one bailed several days earlier. I don't remember what his excuse was. And then the other one woke up with what later became like really bad stomach flu. And he was out for quite a bit. Only sharing this to say, I was like, I'm not going to go. I don't want to go by myself because it was pretty crowded. Like that was a lot. There were a lot of people in little Cynthiana. But I went and I kind of had a blast. I was like, it was a next level nerdy. It was different than a con because it was like the entire town was just about this one show. And I'll probably share more about it. But yeah. And Elon, I love that this series got me into comics. It was the only comic I read for about 8 years, and it means so much to me. I think we have those series that I just will always have a special place in our heart because that's sort of what got going. And I'm not sure how many volumes it is.
I think this has been a gateway too. Yeah, if you're meaning like individual volumes, I'm not sure how many this would collect. 5, maybe? I don't know.
More than that. There's only like 5 or 6 issues per. Right?
Well, I don't mean like total, like per compendium. But yeah, I guess more than that still. Yeah. I don't know. I also went to Sonoy, Georgia, where they film The Walking Dead.
Oh, you did?
It did. And that was really cool too, to like go around that little town. And so I can talk more about that. And I'm sure I have photos somewhere when we go over it. But yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it really was like we'll talk more about it, but it really was like a cultural phenomenon. And it looks like through volume 16, potentially 17. So
total, yeah.
Quite a bit. But again, I'm remembering this being very breezy, especially because we know the story. And I'm just hoping it propels me to finish, even though we're only reading the first half.
And if we get through it and we enjoy it, we may just have to do a part 2 sometime. So.
We may just.
Yeah. So that's next time. Check it out, everybody. I'm sure we will have a great non-sponsor we'll talk about on the show.
I got some ideas.
Yeah, I can't wait. All right. Well.
Yes, thank you so much for. We hit the point where we're no longer coordinated whatsoever. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got a chance to read, thanks for reading them. I hope that you got something out of the stories. If you haven't gotten a chance to read and anything we said interested you, these are dirt cheap. Give 1 or 2 of them a shot. But yeah, I hope you have a great next 2 weeks, and we'll be seeing you to talk zombies. Just a real left turn.
Just a total left. That's what we do here.
That's what we do. We zig and we zag, and we hope we end up in an entertaining place.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us.